Good evening and welcome to I'm Chris Parnell.
Reporting from Moscow.
Tbilisi.
Times Square.
May your dreams be your only boundaries in life.
Welcome to Let's Talk Money. My name is Kelly Bolton, and my co-host Harvey Cook was not able to join us today, but he sends his best. I'm thrilled that you could tune in today as we discuss women in the workplace. We're honored to have with us two very dynamic female business owners with us. They're going to share their insight and perspective. Our first guest is a bit of a local celebrity, famous for her delicious cupcakes and her fervent commitment to her community. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first guest, Kat Gordon, owner of Muddy's Bake Shop. Kat, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about the elephant in the room, the hat. Can you tell us about your hat?
It's one of the very few craft projects that I've ever finished. I'm famous for beginning projects with the best of intentions and then abandoning them when life gets a little bit busy, but did this over Christmas break one year and have very much enjoyed it. It's my favorite food to eat and bake. So
you might as well wear it on your head.
Why not
right?
wear a pot? Yeah.
Well, for our guest, this is Haley Bartos. She's a junior here at Germantown High School, and we asked her to join us because Haley actually has a very big interest in baking herself.
Yay.
So Haley has some questions for you.
I really do. I'd love to start my own bake shop just like you one day. You have an amazing story about young entrepreneurship. What inspired you to start Muddy's?
Well, for the interest of full disclosure, I have had several jobs before this. I've been working since high school, which I highly recommend to everyone. But the career that I was in beforehand, I was actually really terrible at. I was a really bad realtor. So that's how I began the business of baking. And it was something that I always did on the side, had some, clients, sort of family and friends, and got a lot of encouragement to really get that going. And honestly, for me, it was a, kind of a faith journey. So looking at taking that leap of faith, it's absolutely terrifying to start a business. And with a lot of support and encouragement from a large number of people, at some point just said, all right, well, what do you have to lose? You're already really bad at your job. Like, might as well be good at something else. Right. And, what's the worst that's going to happen? So, yeah, pretty much made the decision that whether the calling was leading me towards something, successful or towards a really elaborate character building failure, figured I was all in on it.
That's neat. Mm-hmm. That's really neat. Well, Haley and I were talking, Kat, I know you have started another venture, and it's not just reproducing Muddy's Bake Shop down the way. Tell us about that.
We have opened a coffee shop. It's been open for a little over a month now. So that's Muddy's Grindhouse. It's in Midtown Memphis. And we feature a few of the items from the bake shop, but really looking at it as building a family of businesses. So really the best analogy is to sort of say that they're sister stores to each other. So there's a little bit of overlap, clearly the same DNA, but their own identities.
Well, that's neat. Well, Haley, what about you? I know you've got a zillion questions.
I do have so many questions for you. So you're focusing on coffee at this Grindhouse. With this expanding product line, how do you manage to make these product expansions?
Wow. Well, the coffee really almost seemed a little bit easier because deciding to do a separate business, by definition, we had to focus on a different product mix. The challenge comes honestly more at the bake shop currently. We've been open for a little over 7 years now, and sort of building this recipe box essentially. And there are customer favorites, and our MO to date has pretty much been, somebody suggests something or a baker's interested in something, let's make that, and we'll get that perfected and on the menu. But we really haven't done much pruning of the menu. People get very upset when their favorite gets taken. At the same time, everybody wants to try new things. So going into the next year, we're actually going to be really taking a hard look at some of those items and saying, all right, what are some creative ways that we can, keep the things people really want us to keep while still being able to innovate? And I think the coffee shop's going to help us do that too.
But
right.
I was thinking though, Haley, I don't know about you, but it seems like it would be so much easier just to put another Muddy's Bake Shop down the street. You already have the model. You have a plant that, or whatever you might call it, a kitchen that you're producing all this in. I mean, wouldn't it be easier just to build about 5 or 10 more of those in the locations kind of around this area?
Yes.
Instead of starting something new? Yes. But
that would be easier.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been something that's really appealed to us.
Yeah.
And it's something, honestly, time is going to tell if this was a good decision or not. That is part of entrepreneurship. There's a certain element of just rolling the dice and saying, all right, well, this is what I want. This is what I think is going to work. Ultimately, our customers are going to be the ones to tell us, if that is a workable model or not. But, creatively, it's been really interesting for us to get to learn new things. We have a culture of learning. It's one of our guiding principles. We are all about constantly learning, constantly improving. And by venturing out into a new business, it's given us a chance to bring this whole team of employees along with that. None of them were there when we first started Muddy's. This is the first startup experience for a lot of people, and it has just been really, really educational for everyone so far.
Well, and it sounds like you're very creative and you're very artistic, and so somebody like me that thinks everything very linear and it's very logical and very type A organized, you find a model that works and you just duplicate it over and over again. For you artistic types, those wearing the pie hat, me in the black suit, boring, for me it seems so logical to go the other way. For you, that way would probably be so boring. It would just lack challenges.
I think there are definitely models where it has worked. I mean, there are other business people that I have relationships with that have taken a little bit more of a replication approach, and they've been able to do it and still have each location have its own identity, which is definitely something that is interesting. And we really thought long and hard about that. We think there are ways that we could have still had the creative aspect and maybe follow a little bit simpler model. For us, though, we just really, really wanted to at least take a shot at doing the separate businesses. And there are some other places, not as many, who have taken that approach too. So luckily we do have some mentors that have been able to give us some really great advice.
You mentioned Muddy's identity, and as a community, we know a large part of that is giving back to us and listening to what we want, like you said, the recipes that we like and that sort of thing. Can you share why giving back is such a big business philosophy to you?
Honestly, I feel like it is a big life philosophy. Businesses only exist in the context of a community. You have to sell something and you have to have customers. So you have to exist within this community, even if it is just transactional. But we've just always really felt that we get a lot from our community. So being a brand new business, Muddy's didn't have this brand recognition. We didn't have a reputation for delivering excellent products, on time, because we hadn't been doing it before. And there were a lot of people who really went ahead and took a risk on us. And we had people coming in and, helping us bus tables. It was such the startup story of, so much happening so fast and on a bigger scale than we ever imagined. And I just can't even think about what the business would be like without that fantastic, supportive Memphis community. So, why wouldn't we give back to that? You have an obligation to pay it forward.
Well, that's probably why you've been so successful, at least one of the key ingredients, because you do want to give back, and I think that same heartfelt love for the community goes into your baking, and that's why they're so delicious. And I wish we had some right now. We're going to take a break, and when we return, we're going to continue this lively discussion with our new guest, Cindy Brewer. So stay tuned.
You can now watch your favorite Germantown community television shows from anywhere in the world. GHS-TV is streaming online, live 24/7. A viewing screen displays our channel just like you see on television. Simply visit our website at www.ghstv.org. So log on and enjoy hometown news from anywhere in the world, only at ghstv.org.
Every day is so wonderful, and suddenly it's hard to breathe.
Would it be okay if I sat here?
Is she serious? Whatever. New girl.
Sing away. These words can't bring me down.
Reaching out. Pass it on.
So don't you bring me
A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Money. If you're just tuning in, I am Kelly Bolton. Today we've been discussing the various aspects of running a successful business from some of the top female business leaders in our city. To continue this discussion, we are thrilled to have Cindy Brewer. She is owner of Leo Events. She will share insight and advice to other aspiring business leaders. Cindy's company has a long track record of bringing ideas to life on a large scale. Cindy, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, tell us about Leo Events.
Leo Events is a corporate meeting and event company. We do about 350 corporate meetings and events in the U.S. and internationally every year. We're going into our 13th year of business this year and have 5 offices.
Wow.
Memphis, Nashville, Chattanooga, Charleston, South Carolina, and Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
And 300 events, that's no easy task. I'm sure it takes a staff of quite a few. And I know you've got your full-time staff, but you also have to employ quite a bit of part-time staff too, don't you?
We do, on a per project basis based on the events that we're producing, where we're producing, the expertise that's needed on site for that particular client. Yes, we pull in independent contractors and part-time event staff depending on the location.
Well, tell me, how did you end up deciding to start your own business? Because I know it's got to be scary. I mean, we were talking to Kat earlier. She said she started it because she wasn't successful at her other career. But when you leave a job, whether you're successful or not, starting your own business is scary.
It is scary. And
it's a financial risk.
The company actually the business license was actually founded on September 11th, 2001, if you can believe it or not. My husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, I look back now at all the risk that we took, and if my daughter came to me at 32 or whatever that I was at the time and said, hey, I'm going to do this, I would be like, no, you're not.
Right.
And, it all worked out great. But at the time, we did take a tremendous amount of risk. And, Kat said the same thing, that, you have to believe in yourself and have to keep going. And that's what we did. And, have been going like that ever since.
Well, were you in this line of business before?
I was working for John Elkington, actually, on Beale Street, doing all the events for Beale Street.
Yeah, very good.
The events and the parades and the festivals and everything that happened there. And saw a real need for a company like ours. It didn't exist in Memphis at the time. There was not a company that was focused strictly on corporate meetings and events that were coming to Memphis and being able to service those groups. And saw a need for it and decided that would be a good opportunity to jump in and start my own business. My husband, Kevin, who is one of the co-owners in the company with me, along with Kent Underwood, another partner, was living in Orlando at the time with Hard Rock Cafe Corporate. He would come in town and help me with events, and we both said, this is an opportunity, let's do it. And he moved to Memphis, and we started the business.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yes.
Well, I know a lot of companies or a lot of people, when they're planning their own events, for that matter, you try to do it yourself because you think, well, I can save money.
Right.
Just having a party, you think, well, I can cook that. Well, then eventually you think, maybe I should have catered it. And then you go, wow, maybe it would have been cheaper in the long run to just hire the professional to do it. So I can only imagine on a large scale, corporations might think that it's easier to handle it in-house,
right,
or to staff up to do it, or maybe to have a few of the people on the team say, hey, y'all put together an event. What's kind of your advice on that?
On the corporate level, it works 2 ways. There is a position within a lot of corporations called a meeting planner. If a corporation has that position, that planner, usually can do a lot of the capabilities in-house. Most companies, however, large or small, don't really have that position. Sometimes it falls on an administrative assistant, sometimes it falls on an HR person or marketing person, and that's really, where a company like ours can offer a whole lot of assistance. The time that it takes to produce, if you start to track the time that it takes to produce a meeting or event and then hand it over to someone else, you save a lot of money in the long run. Especially though for our destinations, South Carolina and Tennessee, being able to go to a local expert is always key.
Well, and I would think there'd be some economies of scale that you might be able to get that an individual might not, or a company trying to do it on their own might not be able to get.
Right. Volume discount by all means, the amount of buying power that we have with those 350 events that we do a year. Same thing with, we're on top of everything new in our locations and our destinations. It's up to us to really know new venues, new attractions, new places that we could do unique meetings and events. So really being able to be on the pulse of finding out exactly what the client's looking for and finding the right fit for that client.
And do you do your meetings and events in just the locations where you have offices?
No, we do them all over. Last year we were in Singapore and in Berlin, Toronto, Canada, Hawaii. It's wherever the client likes for us to produce the meeting, we will take that. And sometimes we're the ones sourcing the location for them as well.
Well, that's interesting. And let's talk a little bit about Memphis. Memphis tourism, bringing events to Memphis. I don't even know where to begin. I guess the first thing would be, are we a draw for companies that aren't in Memphis to come to Memphis?
Memphis is a huge draw. I go to 3 or 4 trade shows annually a year. That's an international kind of group, and it's huge and very popular and sought after destination. I think that selling Memphis is not hard. A lot of times the buy comes for them to come here and to experience Memphis. That's really our hardest challenge sometimes, is just to get them to come here in order to see all that we have to offer. We haven't had a meeting planner here yet that's not sold. Once they, taste the barbecue, hear the great music, see how walkable our downtown destination is and the hotels and the products that we have to offer, it's an easy sell.
Well, that's great. And how many how many events do you do in Memphis a year that are, or maybe you don't know, but I would be interested, how many events do you produce for companies that aren't headquartered in Memphis that are coming into Memphis as their destination?
I don't know exactly how many, but it's a good percentage. That's what's called the destination management side of our business, where a corporation will actually choose, or association, Memphis as its destination. They'll choose the hotel and then hire us to do all the other services.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, I know Memphians are glad to know. Well, they're telling us we've got to take a break, so we're going to return in just a few minutes, and we're going to continue this discussion with both our guests, Miss Cindy Brewer and Kat Gordon, so please stay tuned.
You've watched it over the span of 3 decades. We've dedicated ourselves to making it a fantastic community show. And the Alliance for Community Media has named GHS-TV's Crosstalk the best informational program in the country. From coverage of important area issues and events to conversations with high-profile local, national, and international personalities, Crosstalk keeps you informed and entertained. Don't miss Crosstalk, produced entirely by the students of Germantown High School. The news show airs each week only on Germantown Community Television, cable channel 17.
Wow, college already.
Yeah. We gotta go.
I love you.
I love you too, Daddy. And thanks for everything.
Gratitude. Pass it on. A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
Thank you for joining us on Let's Talk Money. If you're just tuning in, I'm Kelly Bolton. Today we've been discussing what it takes to manage a thriving business. To lead this discussion, we have invited both our guests back. So join me in welcoming Kat Gordon, owner of Muddy's Bake Shop, and Cindy Brewer, owner of Leo Events. So thank you both for joining us. Kat, when we were taking break before, we were talking about us in our dark suits, type A personality, and there you are in your pie hat. So we just had to mention that. You know, we were just saying before you came back on, you know, Cindy's real involved in trying to bring awareness of Memphis. I mean, you were involved in the with the what is
Convention
the
and Visitors
convention? I can't get it all out, but the Memphis Convention and Visitors Bureau,
Right.
and you know, Memphis being a big destination, so I suggested we need barbecue and baked goods.
Oh, heck
You know, come to
yes.
Memphis and get fat, right?
Yeah, I tell everybody who's visiting, bring your stretchy pants.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
eat here.
That's true.
Well,
That's
you know,
true.
I know Cindy and I were talking about Memphis being a draw, and Kat, I know you were just interviewed in the New York Times, and
Yes.
along with other bakers here in the Memphis area. So we have a lot to offer. We just got to get the word out.
Yeah, we really do. That piece especially was really fantastic. It brought together, we were the only bakery mentioned, but it was mostly restaurants and places that you could get really excellent pie in Memphis. And I mean, I can't even tell y'all how exciting it was to be able to open up the New York Times and have this whole page, whole rectangular page, all Memphis, with just every kind of Memphis business. I mean, there was a barbecue joint, you know, Andrew and Michael's new place, Hog and Hominy. I mean, it was just a really great feature that really showed people that Memphis was something to be proud of. And we had some customers come in. They were coming from Hawaii, and they were taking a trip, and they had the newspaper clutched in their hand, and they said they had read it and thought, well, maybe we'll give Memphis a try for our vacation.
Well, that's
It
neat.
was just really fun, yeah.
That's really neat. Well, you know, in talking, Cindy, about Memphis being a destination to bring companies in, how would you say our cost would rank compared to some other cities? Is that a draw for people that maybe Memphis could be a more economical destination? Because, you know, everybody's complaining about the airport. I mean, that's an issue. How do you fly into Memphis?
It's very economical, and I think there is a misperception about the airport a little bit, and that is that with the loss of the Delta hub, our airfare has actually been more competitive. So we were losing a lot of meetings hand over fist because the average airfare into Memphis was about $658 about 3 years ago. We had many conventions, Enterprise Rent-A-Car for one that I remember, that desperately wanted to put it in Memphis but couldn't because of the airfare. Now what we are is more competitive. We're at about $430 average airfare. So we're sitting in a much better place. I know that Memphians, it's hard to see because they've lost some of the accessibility, but the meeting planners actually don't care about connecting in Atlanta or Dallas or Chicago. They care about the price point. And we're now very competitive again, and we're starting to see that back. In fact, 2015 looks like it's going to be as good as 2007 and 8 were for a lot of us. So we're excited about that.
Well, that's fabulous. You know, that is true. You don't think about it, you know, we think about just getting from point A to point B as Memphians quickly and not actually the cost.
Right.
Well, I know starting a business, both of you, young women, started a business, took a chance. Kat, do you have any advice for young women like the sweet lady Haley that was saying that she has already picked a spot to open her bake shop in Memphis? Do you have any advice for people that are wanting to start out, especially if they don't have any money? I mean, what do you do when you have nothing to start with?
Wow, that's a lot of potential answers there. I would personally probably separate the money question from general advice for starters. The money question, there are a lot of different avenues. You know, I always caution against borrowing money. It's not that it's a bad thing, just make sure to do it very carefully. I have done it in the last 7 years, but again, incredibly carefully. But Small Business Association, angel investors, just never underestimate the power of personal savings either. You definitely think about each expenditure in a very different way if it is something that you have been saving. And I mean, I used money that I'd been saving from, you know, babysitting in high school. All of that went into my business. General advice is more, you know, something that people can be doing whether you're in high school or college or wherever you are in your journey, is think about your strengths and weaknesses. There's a lot of pressure, I think, for people to be these super people. and, you know, oh, take your strengths and then fix your weaknesses and just be this amazing person. And I would definitely caution folks against that. Small business owners already put enough pressure on themselves without adding that into the mix. So I'd say start with making a list. What are the tasks that give you energy and really get you pumped? And then what are the tasks that you just dread doing? And don't ignore the dreaded tasks, but that's where you really look for your coworkers. Right. Because the task that you dread, somebody else is going to actually get energized by those same things. So if you have a very good grasp on that about yourself, I think you're in a really good position, because nobody does it alone. Even if you are working by yourself, you're going to end up contracting with people. You may end up calling Cindy to do your event. That would be something, planning a gigantic meeting for, you know, all 60 of my staff. I mean, I was writing down your information earlier. Like, note to self. Yes, because that does not energize me. And so finding somebody like Cindy that, you know, that really works for is great.
Well, that's great. And Cindy, what about you? I know we've got just about a minute left. What advice would you give?
For someone starting a business, I think really you just have to do what you're passionate about. And if you're not passionate about it, you're never going to be successful at it. You know, I've seen a lot of people kind of in and out that think that starting their own business all of a sudden means that they'll be a millionaire and they'll get to set their own schedule and they'll get to do whatever they want to do. And the truth is that you work harder and longer than you ever have in your life when you own your own business, but you do it because you love it.
Yeah, and that's true. You know, I think we're all fortunate. I get to go to work every day and I love what I do. I mean, some people think that it'd just be torture to work with money and dollars and a calculator all day, and I just think it's the most exciting thing I get to do ever. And I'm fortunate, my partner Harvey, the same way. So I think we're all very fortunate. I wish we had more time, but they're telling me that we've got to go. So I want to thank y'all for joining us. I thank Kat Gordon and Cindy Brewer for being with us today. We hope you've enjoyed tuning in. So please join us again next month on Let's Talk Money as we explore the thriving Memphis business community.